Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Aladdin's Castle here, and today I am bringing you guys a quick little series. I know how hard it is to afford certain decks, and keeping up with the meta is already stressful and a financial burden. That is why I am sharing with you the top meta decks under $50 if you are on a budget. I have a few builds lined up for you all, and I'm starting off first with one of my favorite decks, Amber Emerald Dogs. A lot of these cards won't include some of the staple cards like Daisy and Webby, but there are a bunch of cards that are basically the foundation that builds a deck, which is under the budget. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with the one drops here. So Lady is the promo card that you could also get, which is I think also not too expensive, but you could also opt for the regular version. She is one of the engines of the game. Whenever you play this character gets +1 strength this turn. And whenever this character has 3 strength or more, she gets +2 lore. So if you want to be really aggressive against those slow blue decks, you could pump her up with cards like Tramp or Webby, and you could kind of squeak in a couple extra lore here or there against those slower decks. Also, I'm running for Ladies. She is a common card also out of set 7, which a lot of the Dogs package really comes from. While you have a character named Tramp in play, this character gets +1 lore, so it's another card that gets boosted depending on your ability to play certain characters. So she also has the chance of questing for 2. Another card which is kind of like a substitute for Daisy, which is going to be the classic Cursed Merfolk. We're all used to the Cursed Merfolk. Has been out for several sets, and being able to quest for 2 while also potentially dropping a card from your opponent's hand is really strong. There are some decks that don't get their draw engine until later, but if you're playing against purple, obviously they get all the draw. But this is still another good backup. Again, all these cards, you could get the non-foil version or the non-promo version of them, and they are really affordable. Next, you are running for Bobbies, because Bobby is a way to kind of cycle out your cards. There are some cards in here that do have uninkable counts on them, so you're gonna have to kind of pitch them, especially if you draw like them too early, like a 5-drop Lady or Under the Sea. Bobby could help fix your hand, and he could also get there to see your combos too as well if you need to filter through your deck. And then we are running the 1-drop Webby. We're obviously not running the shift package because that does cost a good amount, but she is still very good on her own. When you play this character, chosen character gains +1 strength this turn. So again, it synergizes with a Lady. It could help trade with certain cards, and it's a good 1-drop to play as well, just because you're kind of, the whole idea for Dogs, or at least a strategy for it, is to kind of build your board up with low drops, 1-drops, famously made famous by Ghosty, SSG Ghosty, shout outs to him. He's known for running like 24, 26 1-drops and kind of just flooding the board so that he could Under the Sea and Tramp and all that. So it's a similar strategy where you're just dropping a bunch of low-cost characters. Next, I'm running 2 Finnicks. Finnick is a tech card from the new set. Very interesting card. When you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to return chosen opposing character with 2 strength or less to the player's hands. But it could take out like other things like some evasive cards as well, especially with the 2 strength or less, like Genies, Elsas, Tinkerbells, all the evasive stuff that's really annoying to deal with as well. But yeah, it's a very strong card in a certain matchup, and it's also the 1-drop that you might need to kind of fill your board. Next, we're going on to the 2-drops. We have Tramp, Enterprising Dog, another key card for your deck. If you have a card named Lady in play, you may pay 1 less to play this character. Obviously, there are certain implications where you have to trade against your opponent, but you know, it's just very situational. So you are obviously the aggressor in this deck, but there are times where you just have to trade, and you have to eat certain cards, and Tramp is there to pump up your characters for +1 for each other character that you have. Also synergizes with the other 1-drop Lady. Next, again, you could have the regular non-promo versions, but Lilo, Escape Artist, she is another great card that synergizes with Bobby, synergizes with all your Tramps. At the start of your turn, if this card is in your discard, you may play her, and she enters play exerted. So basically, you kind of build up a board. If they board wipe you or get rid of your cards, then later in the game, you could keep bringing back Lilo so that you could put more pressure on your opponent. They have to keep getting rid of your cards every single turn because Lilo keeps coming back. And then I run 4 Go-Go's. Go-Go is one of my favorite cards in the game. She has to be played, and she also catches people off guard. She has evasive, which is nice, so you could kind of hardcast her for 2 and pump her up with cards like Tramp and Webby to take out like a Dumbo or a Genie or other annoying evasives. So there's a small line for that, but you're mostly using her for the bottom effect, which is when you play this character, you may pay 2 ink to gain lore equal to the damage on chosen opposing character. And although you don't have a lot of strength in this deck, you do have cards that could kind of pump up your characters a little bit, and then you could use Go-Go or just incremental damage over turn. You just got to be careful against the purple decks. They have cards like Cheshire Cat or Belle that could transfer damage, but for the most part, you could let some cards build up some damage, and then you could play Go-Go on them to kind of give you a little bit more reach in the deck that could get you closer to the 20 lore that you need. Then I run 4 Ursulas. Ursula is really strong because when you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song of your choice. So there's so many more songs with the release of set 10, especially with cards like the Thunderbolt that came in, and a couple things here or there. So you're going to need ways to get rid of certain actions or certain songs, and Ursula is your card right there to go. And next is Mowgli. Mowgli is another new card from the set, and it is a little costly, but that's why I run 2, and that's why you could kind of split between Ursula and Mowgli. A lot of people are still figuring out the ratios between these 2 cards, but I like Mowgli a lot. When you play this character, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a non-character card of their choice, so it could hit actions, it could hit locations if people are playing that, but it's mostly there to tech in against like blue decks who play stuff like Sail. So like if you go first, you play a 1-drop, they play their 1-drop, then on turn 2 you Mowgli, you could potentially snipe a Sail out of their hand, which really prevents blue from ramping. So that's the strongest opener usage for this card, but also it takes out potentially Spooky Sight and other actions that Ursula can't hit. So if you're able to find some space, or if you could afford Mowgli's, I'd probably put Mowgli to 3 or 4, and maybe Ursula 2 or 3 and 3, but it really depends on your play style and what you think the meta is going to turn out to be. So try it out, but I think Mowgli's are really strong in this format. And then the last 2 costs here are 2 Scrooge McDucks. Super aggro card. He's a 0/2, yes, but when you play this character, you draw a card and discard a card, so it's kind of like a Bobby. And then also says when this character is challenged, return this card to your hand. So there's very few ways to counteract this card. They have to use like card removal, they have to use some bounce cards to put it back to the hand. So there's certain ways to kind of deal with Scrooge, but not in the non-traditional challenge way. And if they do have to challenge it, then you get a card back to your hand, and then you could play it again next turn, and you could keep cycling cards, dead cards in your hand, quest for 2. So it's a nice aggressive card against those blue decks. Again, it's this deck is really good against like the slower matchups, like the blue decks that really take their time to set up. Blurple is being one of them, so it can kind of squeak some games in by just being very aggressive with that card. Next is my boy Rajah, right over here. He is a great card for this deck because of the bodyguard. 3/4 stats is really strong, and there are some times where you're not able to wait for the 7-drop tramp. You might have to keep questing. Being able to open up with like daisies and Scrooge and putting a Rajah behind is so strong against certain decks, especially against like Blurple, which you could just kind of gain so much lore, and being able to protect it with a Rajah is very powerful. And again, the 3/4 stat is super strong. I like it a lot. Then I run 2 Prince Philips. Prince Philip is a way to ensure that you can gain the extra lore at the very end of the game. You're not necessarily playing this on turn 3 for the curve, but towards later in the game when you need like that extra little bit of lore, Prince Philip could come in clutch. You could top deck Prince Philip. That's happened to me many times, and there's very few ways in the game to get rid of a ward character. You do have to watch out for like Demona, which could exert characters as well, and it doesn't target ward. But outside of that, Prince Philip can get you a sneaky 2 lore as well. So he's very strong. I like him a lot too as well in the deck. Then of course you have to run the Chromacon. Chromacon is such an annoying card for most people. being able to protect, quote-unquote, protect your characters. During your opponent's turn, whenever one of your characters is banished, you may return chosen character to the player's hand. So your opponent has to really like play around Chromacon, and certain decks is just really hard for them to deal with. Because Blurple is coming back, I think Chromacon is definitely a really good card to use against them. Sometimes Purple Steel too as well, but it really makes your opponent play awkward, which is really cool because like they're thinking more than you are, basically. Having 2 Chromacons out also just really hard for your opponent to kind of catch up. Then I am running 3 of the 5 drop ladies, Miss Park Avenue. Lady also gives you some potential hand refill. When you play this character, you can return up to 2 character cards with cost 2 less from your discard pile to your hand, and you run so many 2-drops and 1-drops. You can bring back the Cursed Merfolk to be aggressive. You could bring back a Mowgli if you think your opponent has like a spooky sight. You could bring back a Go-Go so that you could Go-Go for a game. There's a lot of potential for you to bring back certain cards. And because you're running 8 ladies, the lower cost, you could shift for 3 and kind of bring back your cards from there too as well. 4/4 solid stats. It is uninkable, but it's very, very powerful. And then of course, one of the main engines of this deck, doesn't work without it, is the 7-drop Tramp. Street Smart Dog. For each character you have in play, you may pay 1 less to play this character. When you play this character, you may draw cards for each other character you have in play, then choose and discard that many cards. So this is a way to kind of cycle in to get your Under the Seas, to get your combos, to get your more tramps, to have a second tramp. It doesn't function without this, and you pretty much mulligan and try to have at least a tramp in your hand so that you could play it like turn 4, turn 3, and whatnot. So it's a very, very powerful card. Quest for 2, it's a 2/6, really hard to deal with, and it is the bread and butter of the deck. Finally, the last card of the set for the deck is going to be Under the Sea. So Under the Sea is your way to clear the board. It's good against Amber Steel if that ever comes up in play, or other like maybe lower tier like aggro decks. But you could also take out some of the evasives like Genies and Elsas. Purple Steel is not your best matchup, but there are times when all they have are evasive characters, and that's all you kind of have as an option. Under the Sea is great. But yeah, that is essentially the main deck that is under $50, surprisingly. There are a couple of cards that you could play, like Daisy. If you were to upgrade this deck, if you do have the money outside of a budget deck, you have Daisy, you have Webby 4-drop, you could play your Mowglis. But this deck was basically designed to make it affordable for everybody to at least compete up with the local meta. It's really hard, I know, to afford certain cards, especially in this economy. But hopefully you'll be able to at least build the main shell that could at least compete at the local level. And I think even without some of these powerful cards like Daisy or 4-drop Webby or Mowgli's and stuff, you could still win your local tournament. So let me know what you guys think. I have a couple of decks lined up for you. But can't go wrong with a deck under $50. I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see you in the next one.